Constantly shifting through the time-space continuum, Metron's three disciples observe the universe from the Mobius Couch.
What's love got to do with it? What's love but a secondhand emotion? What's love got to do with it? Who needs a heart when you can be sitting on the Mobius Couch, a time-space interdimensional vehicle from which your three hosts survey the world of comic books and comic book movies and shows. Of course, today's music intro inspired by the late, great Tina Turner, whom we recently lost. Just absolute legend, firecracker, tornado of a woman and a performer.
I mean, by the time they're hearing this, they'll have had time to maybe take it in a little bit, but it's fresh in our minds.
Anyway, lost a great one. So cheers to you, Tina. I don't believe in God or an afterlife, so you're probably nothing, but have fun. Have fun out there being nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about comics. We're going to discuss the early 2000s Judd Winick run of Outsiders, a Black Ops team willing to go where the Justice League won't. This gritty, hard scrabble group of no longer teenagers, but adults are going to be hard-hitting and gritty as they fight the crime that the JLA won't touch.
Man, that's
the Outsiders, not the Outsiders. Just
issues 1 through 7.
The first arc. Right? The first arc.
Yeah, following the events of Graduation Day, and it also kicked off the Teen Titans book that we already kind of covered the first.
We did.
Yeah, we talked about Graduation Day in that episode.
So there's a lot of macro
although Al
points.
wants to talk about it now.
I do. Well, there's a lot of macro points I want to make about this and Teen Titans and everything. One thing I want to start with: were you aware that Judd Winick or Winick?
I think it's Winick. Is it Winick?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was
in the real world.
Yes, that's how.
I didn't know. Yeah, he was in the real world in the mid '90s, and then
he was on the first season of Real World.
Was it the first season?
I'm almost positive, right? It's with Pedro.
Oh, okay. I mean, he wrote a book about
it.
Pedro,
it was like one of the first. It was like one of the first. Maybe the first season was in New York because he was in San Francisco, so maybe it was the second season.
Yeah, he was.
But
it was very early though. It was early.
It was like in the very early days of reality TV, and he met his wife on that show. They're still married.
Wow.
Also, did you know
what reality TV stars can you say that about now?
Yeah.
I met my wife and we're still married 28 years later. Like, good Lord. Good job.
I think Lisa Rinna and her husband, something Hamlin, I think are still married.
Harry Hamlin? What do you mean?
Harry Hamlin?
Are you out of your mind?
I forgot. He's an A-lister, of course. But I think Harry Hamlin and Lisa Rinna are still married, aren't they? They're a TV marriage.
Yeah. I'm obsessed with Lisa Rinna. She was my favorite housewife. She's not on the show anymore, though. So
yeah, I don't know who those people are.
Anyway, on the Mount Rushmore of
she is great. She is great on Housewives. You should watch.
All right, but so the Mount Rushmore of long-lasting TV marriages are Judd Winick and the other person he married, and then Lisa Rinna and Harry Hamlin.
Okay, there we go.
I think that's it. Okay, but back to comics.
Judd Winick. Well, did you know Judd Winick, after he graduated from college, he lived with a roommate while he was trying to become a comic book. He's an artist and a writer, and the fucking roommate was Brad Meltzer. B Meltz. What? Good old B Meltz.
Wow.
Oh, good old B Meltz.
Brad. I didn't know it was Brad. Good for them.
They were
Brad Meltzer
wrote that tracks time period wise. I wonder who got into the industry first.
It must have been Judd, right? Because I think Brad.
Right? I assume, Brad wasn't.
Brad
really...
was a novel. I think Brad was sort of a novelist who then was asked to write Identity Crisis. He wasn't really like a general comic writer.
Yeah, I saw it on his Wikipedia. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Okay, let's talk about the material now. So, Outsiders. Before we get into Outsiders specifically, I just want to comment because I remember at the time I was reading these issues like as they were coming out, gobbling them up because I was a little late teen in my late high school, college, and just comics. Wee! That's how I lived my life.
Mm-hmm.
This was a weird time for DC because they had Outsiders was gritty adults being gritty and doing Black Ops. Justice League Elite, same exact fucking thing, also at the same time, doing the same thing.
Okay.
Teen Titans was also like a reboot with like more mature Teen Titans being gritty and getting shot in the knee by Slade.
I don't know about gritty.
It felt like a lot of overlap. Like I feel like if there's a Venn diagram of like Justice League Elite, Outsiders, and Teen Titans, it was like almost a circle. I just felt there's a ton of overlap in everything going on in all this.
When did Justice League Elite? It was about the same time, yeah. Justice League Elite.
It was around the same time, 2004. Like
so, Graduation Day was the whole point was to like launch the Outsiders and Teen Titans, and get rid of Young Justice and Titans.
Yeah,
you know? So like, the reason those teams were changed and shifted back to Teen Titans and it being like Robin, Superboy, and I think that makes complete sense. I don't really feel like it's gritty per se, but then this one, I think
they were definitely going for a more adult feel on this Teen Titans version.
Sure, but I guess that's how I saw those characters. I don't really.
I don't know if it was
changing
I don't know
characters.
I don't know if it was a more adult feel. Like those characters specifically were growing up from Young Justice for sure, but I think the older Teen Titans comics,
I think that's all it was. I think it was just like
okay, but all right.
Titans has been stifling the like Dick and Arsenal and like some of those other characters. And then like Young Justice, they weren't children anymore, and they were in Young Justice they were really drawn as children.
Yeah,
like but in their individual books, like they were kind of like in a more of a teen setting and like more in adult situations. And I think
certainly though,
naturally was needed to go in that direction.
Okay, Justice League Elite and Outsiders though are the same team.
Well, so that's interesting because I didn't remember Outsiders because they do specifically say like they're going to be more proactive and go after the villains like before the villains commit the crime. And I kind of forgot I just always felt like Outsiders took care of problems that was like Nightwing makes a comment to Superman saying that they handle the corners where crime thrives, where like his hands are too big to reach. Like they handle, they have a whole arc later on in the series where they go after a guy that is, he's running a sex slave, like children's sex slave, human trafficking ring. Like that's the entire villain for 3 issues, not some big superpowered
It's
threat.
interesting that you mentioned that because like I feel like there's a lot of tidbits of this in Young Justice, the cartoon show.
Oh yeah. Well, that was kind of to Al's point though. Justice League Elite was very much like we are the undercover. I think that's maybe the difference is Justice League Elite was like not even supposed to exist, and the Outsiders.
They were more like full Black Ops, right? Where it's not even advertised.
But you're right. Yeah, there were a lot of similarities between Outsiders and Justice League Elite that I didn't really connect at the time when they were both coming out at the same time, which is odd, but.
Well,
the first 3 issues covers the formation of the Outsiders, and the second 3 issues is, the Brother Blood arc, and then there's like the 7th issue that we're doing tonight, which is just a one-off Metamorpho thing. But the formation of the Outsiders, I think, is kind of what we're discussing. But I think it's like the impetus of them deciding to go after like villains before they set the bomb off. They're trying to get to them or find where they are and take them out before they build the bomb, kind of, so to speak, and I sort of always enjoyed that aspect of it. Like I liked that idea.
Yeah.
Of being Dick calls them hunters instead of firemen. Like he's like, we got enough firemen. Like we need to hunt these guys before they do something bad, kind of thing. And I really, I like it.
Well, let's get into it. So kind of before the Outsiders form, and we touched on this when we did our Teen Titans episode because they had the same origin, which was Donna Troy dying and the kind of effect that had on all these characters. A quick Donna Troy dying. I mean, the digital edition I read of this Outsiders trade paperback also featured the 3-issue Graduation Day where Donna Troy died. If we ever want to do a full episode on that, I'd love to because I have a lot of thoughts on that. Just bonkers 3 issues that it's just complete.
Maybe we can do like a mini companion episode to the Teen Titans.
But
we've talked about it in parts in both of these episodes.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, so I'd always assumed sort of Donna Troy died in like Crisis 5 of Infinite Crises, version 8 or whatever. She just died in this nothing issue thing. Yeah. That's like apropos of nothing. Just like, oh, we're gonna do this thing, and it's just okay. It just blew me away. Book, I thought it was like a bigger.
Yeah, no, its graduation day was just like it was literally just an excuse to kill somebody to start these teams on a path of like, we fucked up, we need to do better kind of thing. And I it's the shit. I mean, also it's comics, so you don't really, who cares? Donna's going to be back at some point anyway. But
she was back.
She's immediately back that same issue.
It's so stupid.
They did the same thing. They did the thing like with Batman and Final Crisis, where like the same issue he dies.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Like, oh, by the way, she's alive. She's actually alive.
So that's funny because on that note, I have things to talk about that when we talk about the Metamorpho issue at the end of this. But there's, I guess what I'm saying is like, I mean, Donna's eventually on this Outsiders team. So like she comes back. The point is like they're all upset about it and they feel like they need to be doing something else or doing something different, and it's like a moment for them to move forward with their lives in a specific superhero arc, so to speak, way. And it also did the same thing for the Teen Titans, and I think, I mean, that's the only point of that whole story arc. That's kind of why we didn't do an episode on it. Because it's just 3 issues.
I want to do an entire episode because I have so much to say. One last note I'll make. For some reason, she's also called Troia. For some reason. Yeah. In northern Italy near Venice, in dialect, Troia means slut.
Oh.
So just thought I'd bring that up here.
Do they wear Starfield costumes?
They wear, I mean, I guess I should say this for that episode, but she's at the very first issue of Graduation Day. She is wearing an outfit that in a porno movie would seem like a lot. I don't know. It's insane. It's insane. Those issues are insane. They start with her in like a gladiator pit wearing just millimeter thick strings like across.
Well, on that note,
crazy.
Of costumes.
It's crazy. It's unreal.
Indigo's costume in this is like a tiny little mini skirt and like a little bra top thing that like has a giant hole cut in it over her boobs. And there's certain aspects. First of all, she's got a lot of under boob going on randomly sometimes. And then also, because the hole's cut, I'm just like, is she like a synthetic android that doesn't is she like a Barbie doll and doesn't have nipples? Because there were certain like panels of the book that I was just like, that doesn't make,
she might not,
there's nothing, it's not covering anything of her actual boob. It's just like around the outside of it, sort of. And I was like, how is that possible?
She might be a formless android, but
yeah, I think she's
we can get to we'll do the whole Bechdel test thing later. These comics are like pretty horny. Like there's a lot of babes in it, and they're always hot.
Also, so Winick also drew, or Winick also wrote The Exiles for Marvel. So it's like a ragtag team of like random like people from different, like some of them are from Age of Apocalypse. Like there's a Blink character that is very similar in like elfish, like slutty hotness to Indigo. And I was just like, does Winick just always want like a little slightly barely old enough barely legal teenage girl
android?
Like is that a like a thing? He's like, well, as long as I get this random character that looks really hot. In my book, the introduction is by Winick, and he literally says something about hot blue androids in miniskirts or something like that as he's talking about introing them. And I'm just like, it's a weird look. It's a weird thing to say about your own book.
Look, that's how they did it in the real world.
Yeah,
that's how it was.
It's real.
All right, but let's get into issue. Go ahead, Patrick.
No, I was gonna say when I first read this, I remember this book being like, I thought it was very much like female empowerment because there were so many strong, badass women on the team.
It is in a way,
but it's all it is, but also super horny. Yeah, but it's also very much like, look at these babes, be babes.
Do we want to do overall takes?
Sure.
Sure. We usually start with that. Why don't you start, Patrick, since you brought it up?
Oh God. Okay, I'm not ready.
This is your idea.
I just do it about it,
Well, so I'll say nostalgia plays a big role in me revisiting Outsiders, because in the Teen Titans episode, I talked about how that run is like one of my favorite comic book runs ever. And this book launched at the same time as Teen Titans, and they kind of have the same timeline. Like, for instance, in this storyline, at the end of it, they fight Brother Blood, and Brother Blood is killed by his son. And then in the next issue, which is issue 7, like they're on the same exact timeline with their issue numbering. Like the next issue for Titans, they fight the son. That's the new Brother Blood.
Yeah.
It's like, so these two books kind of very much like mirrored each other a bit. And I just really remembered loving it and revisiting it. I remembered the first 6 issues being like batshit crazy at the time, but like revisiting it, like it is really just off the wall. Like who approved this to be a story? Like, I don't understand. They fight like half of the villains in DC, like within the first like 4 issues.
Yeah. Well, the first 3 issues are just bonkers. They are bonkers. And like Joker's plan makes no sense, and nothing makes any sense. It's bonkers.
But I will say I loved it. I mean, Joe, to your point, I didn't realize he wrote Exiles, but throwing together this team of just like these are random people, because Roy, Arsenal, and Nightwing are the only two, and Jade. But I mean, like, I didn't know anything about her.
Even Jade is like, a little bit of a left way.
She's like out of nowhere,
left stage pull, you know? Yeah.
So like, but I think Thunder, Grace, Shift, and Indigo were all relatively created for this book. So they're all brand new characters, and I think he did a very good job making them all interesting, and they all had interesting power sets and different dynamic personalities. And
I agree.
I love the character. Like, I feel like the character work is very strong from the beginning. I did skim further into the run, be like, please tell me I remembered it how I think I remembered it. It does get better the further you go into the run. Okay. But these first the first 6 issues are crazy. The 7th issue, when Metamorpho shows up with the whole shift thing, I that's my favorite issue. I'm rambling, but the character work I think is great on this book, but the storylines and the plot of what they're doing is fucking crazy, out of control.
Do you want to go next, or should I go, Joe?
I mean, yours is just going to be I hated it, right?
I didn't like it. Yeah, that's mine. I didn't like it. No, I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. At the time, I thought this was great and a lot of fun. Reading it now, I don't really recommend. I recommend it if you want to read it sort of ironically, to kind of like laugh at early 2000s comics. This is one to do it with, but I don't recommend it if you're actually looking for a good book to read.
Well, we're not doing recommendations right now. We're doing overall takes.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I mean, but to Patrick's point, like for example, the Brother Blood thing. In the Teen Titans version, Kid Blood is creepy and dark and vaguely magical and actually threatening and is kind of scary. And in this book, he's just comically nothing.
Oh, horrible.
The Brother Blood, they fight. Yeah. So, I mean, the contrast there is, I don't know. I felt like even just
that's fair.
Given the same villain, Teen Titans kind of did it better. So I didn't really like this. Reading it now, I didn't like it. That's my take.
All right, and that's what we call a compliment sandwich, because I did like it. All right, it's not that I really enjoyed this in general, but we've read a bunch of stuff from this time period, and I found it overall to be like a refreshing, like 90s, early 2000s book, whereas like some of the other stuff we've read from this time period, I'm like, oh, good Lord, this is bad. So this was actually kind of fun for me. I mean, I don't know. It's a pretty good comic for this time period. There's fresh takes on the characters, like Patty was saying. Like, there's new, interesting supporting characters. Like, Shift comes out of nowhere. Indigo is interesting. You know, like Thunder is a good character. Solid, reliable art. I wasn't like disappointed. I mean, I don't love the Chriscross issues with Brother Blood, but like it's okay. It's not bad. He's a little like way too animated, but it kind of works for a shape-shifting character like Metamorpho and stuff like that. So like, you know, there's some stuff that comes out of that I really like.
Yeah, also we've got 20 minutes.
Fresh and nice. It's not, they don't mince a lot of words, you know. They kind of get to the point. They say a lot of honesty, like whereas like in comics back then it was like they would just talk to talk, and I was just like, this seemed like they were a little bit more like witty banter back and forth, and it was kind of, I don't know, like an old show from that time period that was cleverly written. kind of thing.
I think the dialogue was
kind of reminded me of like a
was
TV
good.
show. Yeah. And then, and he doesn't really like overdo it, like it doesn't get like I don't know. I have no reference for this, but like, it just doesn't go like too hard with the wittiness. It has a point and it's kind of stops. I liked Indigo's like random paragraphs of text while they're fighting and they're like, would you stop talking? Like every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that was funny. Winick wrote like under the red hood, if you want to call it that, but under the hood. And he wrote like Countdown to Infinite Crisis. I really love that. Like, I mean, like that's an amazing storyline with Blue Beetle. And then, Exiles Green Arrow. He wrote the Green Arrow issue where his new Speedy has AIDS and stuff. Like he handled more serious topics well. And I think like, maybe there's some bias for me reading this that I'm like, I remember Winick being great. So like, I just got this as, DC books over the years that I read that were good usually had his name on it from this time period. So that, there's
he was a big voice in like the 2003 to 7.
Tom Raney's really solid artist. I really like his, I don't like love it, but it's good. You know what I mean? Like, and it still holds up now. So that's saying something. Like even with those ridiculous costumes, he doesn't draw them too like over the top or too much tits and ass in your face, or I'm not seeing Yellow Jacket taint all over the place, even though Dick Grayson's jumping around. And then I guess that's it. I don't know. I just like overall I did kind of like it. It's a fun concept of a group team that's interestingly put together with individuals that shouldn't necessarily be on the same team, but they are, and mixed with the concept of them going after the villains before they have time to put together their villainous plan. Like I enjoy that part of it. Anyway.
Yeah, I did like how the members were like recruited, like they weren't just brought together by fate. Like
they get
paid. They get paid a really healthy salary, and like they were handpicked by Arsenal to be on the team specifically because they didn't have any relation to each other. Because to get Nightwing on the team, the big thing was that they were a team and not a family and not friends.
It's a job, not a family.
Yeah. So there were some good ideas to it, and again, I felt like the dialogue is great. I thought Dick and Roy's chemistry was good. I totally bought into the fact that these are old friends that have been together for a long time.
Yeah, you buy their relationship instantly.
Yeah,
like
it was just the way they talk to each other. It was just
and they're not
top.
the same person. They argue a little bit. Like Dick is like, "Let's do this," and he's like, "Whoa, calm down." Like we're doing, I'm doing it. Kind of thing. And like, I don't know, they just seem like actual friends that have known each other for a long time. It was well written,
Okay, we've done takes. Let's start talking about these
do
issues.
it.
So we're going to skip the day after tomorrow or whatever, the one that came after graduation day. Because
it's called A Day After, and it's really just a quick, like, this is where those characters are before issue 1 starts. And all it really does is sum up, like, Roy goes to Star Labs to make sure they destroy the Indigo robot, and they're like, actually, she's healing, and he's like, interesting, fine, like, but I'll only accept you not killing her if I take her under my possession, kind of thing, And there's little things that set up in the day after, but there's not like super important, to this
another
story.
Insane character choice that we'll talk about in a second, but and it features some Titans too. Like I think this is still another issue of like a preamble.
Nightwing has
Titans
a conversation with Tim Robin, and they have like, and really the summary of the conversation is Nightwing saying like, no, I want to be left alone. Like, stop trying to get me to join a team with Roy. Like, I'm not doing it, kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. But so the actual first issue starts with a cruise ship in the middle of a nameless ocean being attacked by gorilla-shaped attackers, whilst Arsenal and Nightwing are talking on rooftops. I want to make a comment about Nightwing. Arsenal's trying to have a real conversation with this man. And Dick is like acrobatically backflipping off of roofs, and it's like, bro, this dude's
I didn't pull that
talking
image
to
up.
you.
I did have it though.
Yeah, like this guy's talking to you, man. Have a conversation. Like the dude's doing acrobatics.
I think it's some artists like need to draw something happening. Like for instance, in the Day After introduction bit, like Tim and Dick had a long conversation and they were swinging around the rooftop, sure, but they would stop on the roof and like look at each other and talk, and then they would do something else. And like, Like it was like there was moments where it made sense that they were having a conversation.
Well, I just want to mention how ridiculous this
Dick
way of
flipping around while Roy's like, "I'm trying to talk to you, man," is so insane.
I kind of felt like that was just Dick's way of being like, "Hey, dude, I've already told you I'm not.
I've told you like 20 times. I don't want to join your team.
I'm doing my thing. I'm flipping around. I don't feel like talking." He specifically says, "I don't feel like talking." He says, "I don't feel like it," and he dies.
But is that like how Dick fights crime? Is just doing needless backflips off of a rooftop?
So here's what I'll say. One of my notes
when
is
nothing's going on.
Dick is sometimes he's jumping out of planes left and right in this run, and he'll be up in the air like hundreds of feet, no buildings to attach to.
Captain America, man.
Dick,
jumping out of planes.
There's like one of the issues.
It's in issue like 2, I think.
Issue 2, he jumps out into the city with the gorillas, but then when they're fighting Brother Blood, he's just, it cuts to him in the air, apropos of nothing. He's got no wires, no buildings, with machine guns shooting at him. And I'm like, what? I'm like, in Nightwing, it's almost implied that he can just like fly around in this.
Well, he did. I know in the animated series. So
it's not that. I know what you're talking about, Al, but it's not that.
He had these little like underwings that he could glide.
He does not have that in these comics.
But
all I'm saying is
the assumption is that he finds some way to slow his fall via like little Batman zipline thing, and it's insane. But I also sort of love that it's like he's that confident. He's just like whatevs, just jumps out of a building or out of a plane. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, but it's also it's just like it's not a mature way to deal with a conversation to just backflip off of a roof out of it. Is not how a human being should approach a conversation with someone.
Sure, in that instance, maybe, but like me and Patty are talking about him leading the team and being like, "Let's start this fight," and he jumps out of the plane. I don't think that's a little less like, I don't want to talk about this. It's more like, shut the fuck up. This is the plan. Let's go, kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't know. I like that.
Yeah, Joe, I didn't hear anything you said because I grapple hooked onto another building and did a backflip with my dick to the camera. And
you son of a bitch. I'm trying to have a conveation with you, Al.
Sorry. I'm busy fighting crime.
Dick just likes to be chased. You know what I mean? Dick.
That's gay.
It's like, hey, you're still keeping up with me? You just really want me on this team?
All right, cool. Just saying.
I don't know if I want to be on this team. Maybe ask me.
I wrote issue 1 it'd be great if Roy was just like, I guess you don't want to talk, and Dick's just like, I wanted you to chase me.
I wanted you to chase me. Issue 1 is just Roy makes the team flashbacks, but I really like Grace. Grace fucked Plastic Man. I just wrote ew. She alludes to it. I don't know.
Well, so one thing
it's
I know
heavily implied.
You both already mentioned this, but just to piggyback on something we said, I think Winick actually writes pretty good dialogue. Like it's kind of funny. It's like a good sort of lighthearted, like a lot of the comedy hits and the
and also it's subtle enough to where it's not like she literally said, "I fucked Plastic Man." She's like, "Oh well, Plastic Man can get into all shapes" or something like that, and we're always like, "Oh." Like, but that's funny.
His little, repartee between characters and dialogue is pretty good. I think I'll mention this later when we get to it, but like Brother Blood talking to his Dennis, his little minion, is funny. Like he has a lot of good little dialogue bits.
There's a couple of random
about Winick,
like super dated things, like the global positioning satellite that they have to call out by name, which I thought was funny. And then in this issue, there's like the Navy, or not the Navy, but the Coast Guard is like, this cruise ship's out of control. Let's try to stop it. And they say like, you need to halt your ship, or we'll take evasive action immediately. And I was like, so you'll get out of the way? What? That doesn't make any sense. And I was like, missed that one, editors. Dick does not like Indigo, which isn't a surprise.
Oh, we're skipping. Before we get to that,
so the first issue is like just introducing us all to the new characters specifically, and I've always loved Thunder's intro. Like this is the first thing I've ever seen her in, and she comes in, she breaks up these guys that are beating up this man because they're like a mafia. He's not paying protection money or some shit. And when the guy goes, because you don't know what her powers are, and the guy goes to punch her in the face, and he breaks his hand on her face because the power is that she can increase her density and become hard to steal.
Well, she can also shoot lightning out of her eyes.
Well, here's my love-hate relationship.
I think there's
thing with
just
Thunder
lightning just related to her.
But it has nothing to do with her power.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't there
Yeah.
too. I'm like, I get that you're the daughter of Black Lightning, but we can just
That's all.
that can just be
That's it.
explained. You don't have to have lightning shooting out of your
That's
eyes.
it. She's the daughter of Black Lightning. Her name's
Yeah,
Thunder. That's it.
I get that, but lightning to her does nothing.
No, it doesn't.
Like
It
has
doesn't-
nothing to do
it's
with
weird
power,
that-
yeah.
so.
It's weird that when she uses her powers, lightning is like coalescing around her body. But I will. I have this weird obsession with her costume in the first like 30
You mean
issues.
just
It
the
changes.
tit cups?
Well,
The
so
little
I
tit
don't
cups
love
she has,
I don't
or-
love the deep V. I'm more talking about just like the color scheme. Like it's
Look at this.
like-
I changed the pictures.
It's like power clashing colors. It's like hot pink, bright yellow, like lavender purple, and then her sleeves have like the lightning on it, and then she's got big golden like braces
like
on.
accents. Yeah.
It's just like there's a lot going on, and there's
It's
hard
red, purple,
black
and black,
lines.
Patty.
But
with
I'm
gold
obs-
on it.
I'm kind like it should be hideous, but I'm kind of obsessed with her whole look with the blonde.
I
wig
like it. I
and
don't really
everything
mind it at
is,
all. The red front makes no sense at all. Like the rest of the colors sort of match,
Right,
like Black
yeah, I think
Lightning,
that's
sort
what it
of.
is, yeah.
But like the red makes no sense. But I sort of like it. I know
Like,
it's
to me,
insane the
I don't
way
even
it's
see it
cut.
as
Those little
red.
rectangles that come
It's
down
cut
around her.
ridiculously.
I mean,
Well,
like the
then-
shape of
yeah.
it is impossible. Like there's black rectangles that come onto her collarbones. Like you can see it in the image right next to me. But
yeah.
but it makes no sense at all. Like I'm like, how would that? I don't. All right, whatever.
But if like you really zoom in on the little diamond on her belly button, like that is colored orange. It's like there's so many colors.
No,
in
that's her skin.
costume.
That's
No
open to her
way.
skin. Yeah,
No, that's a color. That's not her skin. That's like an orange color. Yeah.
I think it's her skin.
No.
And then she's got
that's
like
a
the weird
separate orange
grips on
color.
her hand. Like her gloves have like ribbed.
Oh yeah,
lines
and
on
then there's
them.
the lines of gold going up her knuckles on the back, like on some of the
No,
on
I
the
know what you
crisscross
mean.
issues specifically.
I mean,
There's
to
just-
Patrick's point, this is really 7 different costumes
It's
Mhm.
combined
like-
into
That's
one.
definitely her
Yeah.
skin right there. It's definitely her skin in that diamond, like 100%.
Not in the issue. It looks like an actual.
Well,
color. But anyway, the
I
point
would, I
is,
would
to
argue you're
Patrick's
wrong
point,
completely.
I mean, the shoulder arm sleeves are kind of like Tempest swirly colors.
Yeah.
And then, it's just 4 different costumes in one, which is,
Also,
it's
the
like it was
organic shape of the
2004.
lightning on her shoulders and stuff is just like it's all over the place. That costume,
Well,
man.
that's
It's
the
all over the
lightning
place.
too. It's like it'd be different if you had lightning powers and that was your actual like lightning that you were creating going through.
Yeah,
your
the only reason
suit,
you would have lightning
but
on your costume is because you named
it's-
yourself Thunder. Like that's literally it.
which is also weird because she hasn't named herself in that first scene. She's like, I haven't picked a name yet, even though this entire costume's based off
But,
lightning.
that's classic comics right there, though.
Well, that's the other thing is lightning has nothing to do with her powers, but shoots out of her eyes and is on her costume. And then her nickname is Thunder, which is not lightning.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
Which,
just
Again, it
there's a
just
lot
would
of
have been
confusion.
it would have been
Yeah.
better just to be like, oh, she's Black Lightning's daughter and her name's Thunder because she makes big noises when she jumps off of buildings and she weighs.
And
1
why?
billion pounds.
Who made the blonde wig as a choice? How does that
We've
help?
spent a
them?
lot of
That
time
is
on this.
odd, right?
Why is the
All right,
blonde
so
wig a choice there?
that goes back to a day after. The fact that I'm referencing this is ridiculous. So she has an argument. Look, check this out. She has an argument with her father, who does not want her to be a superhero. So he walks in after her graduation, literally from college. So it's been all of 10 minutes since she got her like cap and gown off, and she's already
I know
putting on
she's
a superhero
20.
costume.
We're told in the comic she's 22, so she's legal.
So
it's okay.
The point is,
Okay,
he
she's
walks
legal.
in and goes, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm becoming a superhero. You said as soon as when I graduate college, I could finally make the choice for myself." And he's like, "Yeah, I thought you'd take some time to think about it. Also, you're going to be a doctor. That could help way more people." And she's like, "No, I think this is what I need to do." And they have this long argument, and at the end of the conversation, Black Lightning literally says, "Fine, have it your way. If you're not going to wear a mask, at least sport that wig you got for Halloween." She holds it up like, "All right, this will disguise me." That's insane.
I mean, it's very
Like, that's-
similar. Was Black Lightning like friends with Black Canary? Because I know that she would wear a blonde wig, but it is a weird choice. Everything about Thunder's look is weird. I do love her character in this, though. And I just want to say, after she beats up all those guys, she breaks one of their faces. And there's this beat when Roy shows up to recruit her, and she's like examining the guy's face. And it's almost like she's kind of terrified at like what she did to him. I just really liked, back to my point originally, like everything about the characters was great.
Yeah, in this weird one, it's a skin diamond.
It's always a skin diamond.
No, it's an orange diamond in that other photo.
It's not. It's
100% different inking than.
Anyway, should we call it? Is this whole episode just going to be Lightning's costume? Should we?
It's just going to be called Skin Diamond.
I was going to say, like, it is something I don't think I've ever talked to anyone about. It's just something I've thought about a lot since 2003. So I just wanted to like bring it up. Like,
Thunder's Anissa's costume in this Outsiders run has been on Patrick's mind for 20 years.
Well, it is true. I mean, to Patrick's point, like not just the costume, the character is, I don't mean her personality is, but the concept is all over the place. It's like Lightning daughter, but her name's Thunder, but she has nothing to do with Lightning or Thunder. And her costume.
We're talking about this way too
everything.
Much. Listen, Nightwing hates Indigo. And they join, and he joins the team.
All right, quick. Let's just give a touch on. All right, so Gracie, we touched on. She's a bouncer who had sex with Plastic Man. She's on the team. Yeah. Another stone cold babe, just incredible body.
Rex Mason.
Rex Mason. By the way, does anybody else like? I get real strong. What's the PC term? Like mentally handicapped vibes from. He's in like a. Looks like a mental hospital, staring out a window, and he's just has this kind of like vacuous, just fatuous expression on his face. I feel like he's. Seems like a special person.
As you will learn later, he's a portion of a human. You know, he's not like.
Well, that's what I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, or that was what they were trying to kind of.
I think
push that like he's not really a fully developed adult man kind of thing. Especially
that first. I mean, the first issue makes all the characters intriguing, and that this was the first time Metamorpho was ever interesting to me because the image of him like.
Well, I love how they drew
talking to him. Yeah, how they drew him is great.
I love how they drew him is really cool.
Every panel he looks different. Like in one panel he's got roses growing out of his head, and then he's got like a sun and like a planet spinning around his.
Yeah, it's just swirling stuff around him.
It is.
That's around his finger.
Yeah,
Metamorpho classically is a ridiculous design, and he looks silly. He just wears black underpants with a little M belt. And he's got very distinct like quadrants of his body, like a mud leg and a stone leg, and then like orange scales or something. I don't know. He's all over the place, and a purple half of his body. This, who we think is Metamorpho, we learn out later on. Let's just call him Shift. It's easier that way.
Shift. Yeah.
So Shift, before he calls himself Shift, is like a black. I mean, like a gray body with the swirling lumps and. I don't know, just jagged bits coming off of him with the swirls of orange and purple mixing in with the gray body, and he looks amazing.
Yeah, and there's like all the different textures and like the purple and orange parts. I think he's really drawn really well.
I love how his eyes are like black. I mean, they changed the way his eyes look a lot throughout the issues, but in this first issue, they're like.
I think later on they settle on like blue pupils with black eyes. Yeah, but
I agree to all that. He looks amazing. His character design is fantastic.
So at the end of this episode or issue, the monkey attack happens, and
my
only question is why do they have a giant screen showing the pier where the attack's happening before the attack happens for literally no reason whatsoever. And it's the only screen. It's not like there's multiple screens of like locations around the city that they're watching. It's just that one pier.
What do you mean? It's not.
Found that very odd. Let's just check out this one pier. And then later on, a boat happens to crash into it, and they're like, oh, it's a good thing we had that TV screen queued up to that one security camera.
Shift says if that's a live feed of Pier 31, blah, blah, blah.
He's like, why on earth is this happening? And
I guess they have monitors for every pier in New York City. And they happen to look at that one. I don't know.
At any rate,
but we also
Gorilla
get
Tech.
introduced to Indigo right before.
Oh yeah, so Indigo like I
Indigo
said,
is
in a day after Indigo is like taken by Roy and reprogrammed or whatever, but solely to, instead of being destroyed because she killed Donna or was responsible for it somehow, or partly. He's the only reason he's not letting, or he's okay with him not incinerating her for whatever reason is because she'll be under his like watchful eye or whatever.
So from
Nightwing obviously knows nothing about this.
Yeah, but top to bottom, A to Z, Roy's decision makes no sense whatsoever. Under even the reasoning they give you in this comic make no sense.
Not even a little bit
whatsoever. Why? Even if let's say that, like, yes, Roy reprogrammed her, and yes, he's confident she's not evil. Like, fine. Let's say you did that. It still makes no sense of why you'd say this random robot from the future that we have no context on, come fight crime with us in this. It makes no sense whatsoever.
It's just, numbers,
I don't know what else to say. It's just like bonkers.
Also, Roy, is he a tech guy? Like, did he even run this by Oracle or anything? Like, is he the one who solely?
Well, apparently not. I mean, spoiler
Cyborg is the one who convinces Roy not to like demand that she's be incinerated, which is interesting. But he basically, I mean, Cyborg makes the argument like, I mean, basically Roy wants to shut this thing down and kill it, and they're like, no, like her programming was damaged, everything's fine. It was all the Superman robot. This had nothing to do with her. And Victor basically says, we talked about this, Roy. She was seeking out other synthetic life forms. That included me, the Metal Man, and Superman android. That damn Superman android. She never had any intention of doing anyone harm. And
how do you know that, Cyborg?
Well, because when
he is because they linked
when
up
she
or
took
whatever.
him apart. They're like circuits
because they like linked minds. He like knows for sure
that
she's not evil or whatever.
Evil.
But it turns out that he only got to see the Indigo programming, which was actually just a decoy.
Yeah, not the Brainiac 12 or whatever.
So again, like Roy's against it, and he's like, they said they'd give this thing a few weeks of study, then it'd be destroyed. I know that you think, and then Victor cuts him off and says, no, it's what I know. She hardwired herself right into me, and I could feel her. And you know what I felt more than anything else? Fear. Which doesn't mean she's not going to kill you.
Yeah,
but okay. But my main point is, even if you accept that, like, whatever, let's not kill this android, fair. But
still don't put it on your superhero team.
Yeah, no, put it on our superhero team. Insane.
Why don't you make her your Martian Manhunter girl that like sits in the base and just kind of monitors things and like helps you out, from afar.
Then Speedy, Arsenal is like, oh, I reprogrammed her. Like, bro, you were a heroin addict 5 years ago. Where did you learn to code?
That's 28th
century technology. This is insane.
Are you serious? He took some online courses.
She's a robot from the future. Where did you learn to program that?
He knows things.
Roy is like, this is a tangent, but Roy is the most incompetent. And I like him. I'm rooting for the guy. I'm rooting for Roy. I think you're supposed to. But man, he fucks up.
He fucks up all the time.
Every opportunity he has to fuck up, he fucks up. Where it's like, it's insane. He is taking like I don't know if we're going to cover more outsider issues on this, but I feel like, spoiler alert, Roy is the guy who gets the info on the villains, and it turns out he's been getting it from Batman, which actually turns out it's not actually Batman, it's Deathstroke in disguise as Batman.
Yeah.
For the entire issue.
It's incredible.
The outsiders have literally been doing Deathstroke's bidding for like the first 30 issues of this run because
of Roy. Because Roy is that fucking dumb that he's just like, all right.
Are you serious? Roy's not dumb. It was Batman.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Roy realizes there's a traitor on the team and he interrogates everyone. And someone's like, why don't you interrogate Indigo? And he goes, I reprogrammed Indigo myself. She's the only one on this team that I can trust. And then like 2 panels later, she blasts him in the back and is like,
she's like, hey, I'm Brainiac 8.
I'm Brainiac 8. I'm from 3,000 years in your future from, Koluan.
You idiot.
You fucking dumbass.
I could just be like, Roy, where did you learn to code? He's like, no, I did it like on MySpace. I've got this cool page set up. I know what I'm doing.
Oh, Roy.
I mean, it's just crazy.
Your bows and arrows, man.
Yeah, but Roy's weird. He's also a character.
He's more than bows and arrows. He's Arsenal. He has guns now.
Well, that's another thing I want to talk about. Roy is a character I feel like I've always wanted to like, but he's always written, I feel like, just to make Robin look better. Like he always fucks something
Nightwing,
up.
You mean?
Yeah.
Or, well, I mean Dick, but like whatever version, whether it's Robin or Nightwing. But I feel like Roy Harper has always, anytime he's really used, is just to sort of make Dick look better. And I can't ever really count a moment in time where it's like, oh, right, Arsenal Super came through and was awesome in this arc. Like never. And I mean across media, like Young Justice cartoons, Outsiders comic, the Titans before that. Like, I mean, I know we referenced before. He was a crack addict for 10 years in comics.
He was in Justice League after this, and he still did nothing. He would do nothing.
Connor Hawke, who, like Green Arrow's son, who replaced it, was like immediately a better Arrow dude than Arsenal ever was. Like just issue 1, he's already better than Roy ever was. So
Roy's in a weird position because he's the original sidekick. Like, it wasn't Connor. You know what I mean? Like in a Captain America Winter Soldier scenario, he wasn't the original Bucky, or in a Red Hood scenario. He's like the Red Hood version of Green Arrow's sidekicks, I guess is what I'm saying. And like, that was the second Robin, like the fuck up Robin. You know what I mean? Like he's Connor the first. Green Arrow fucked up on the first kid. Is what I'm trying to say. I mean,
Connor was just an example, but I just mean, I just wanted to highlight Patrick's.
Connor's a good example. You know who else is? Speedy. Maya, like she's a better. Maya's better. She's also better.
But Roy is, he has kind of a roguish charm. Like and he's not a bad person, definitely. No, so he is a character that like you want to like and has a charm, but he's just throughout time has never been written as
even recently with is it Dark Crisis? No, that was the newest one.
Dark
Crisis
Metal
of
Night.
Crisis of Conscious. I don't know what it's called. But Wally West basically murders Roy.
Oh,
he's alive again. It's so insane. I don't know.
But but Wally's another. If you look at Roy's contemporaries, Dick, Wally, all these, like Roy's just like a loser. He's not.
I think Aqualad's he's there with Roy.
Okay, Aqualad's maybe around. Yeah,
I think Aqualad, the
Tempest.
I'm not too up to date with DC, but I reread Titans Rebirth, and I liked how Aqualad was portrayed as more as almost like a gruff caveman type, solves everything with like violence and physical strength. Because I don't remember him being like that in the early Titans, like 90s.
Tempest was sort of like that.
Oh, he was. I was remembering like 90s, the wizard with his trident
run, and Tempest was like, "Fuck you, Arthur," and like kind of just doing his own thing. And he was also sort of like, "I have different powers now. I do my own shit." Like he was always just kind of like
magic.
I do, yeah. Well, and hot and cold. He has
laser
both sides
beams
of the
out of his eyes.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we're way off on a tangent. Issue 1, we're done. Gorillas on a
issue
pier.
2. Gorillas attack.
Yeah, we're done.
We already talked about it, but Nightwing jumps out of a plane, all bossy.
Well, issue 2, I laughed at. So it starts with like this fucking gorilla in the sky.
Yeah.
With this insane look at its face, and it just suicide bombs an airplane. It's batshit insane. Yeah.
Really, my only note about issue 2 is that going back to the dialogue, I thought Winick did a great job with Lex. I loved Lex in these 2 issues. He was fantastic.
I agree.
Lex is great.
I did like this version of Lex, who was just sort of like a no time for idiots.
Also,
like
honestly, it's been enough time where I almost forgot Lex was the president for a while.
Yeah.
And there was some fun storylines that came out of that, and this is part of it. And I just remember it just brought me back to all those like moments of Lex being the president and being like, I'm legitimate now. Like, fuck you. But also being put into these situations where he's being tortured by the Joker. And it's just good fun. Well, I like watching Lex get tortured.
He's also written sort of presciently. I mean, he almost Trump-esque. It is just, he's like a rich piece of shit who doesn't care about being president and just talks down to people. And it's very sort of very forward looking.
His whole Secret Service around him gets murdered by the Joker, and he's just like, well, I'm the only one around, so he might as well come out of the shadows. He's just like, he doesn't give a fuck. There's like 15 people just died.
My favorite was his comment when like Joker's torturing the shit out of him, and he's like level 10, like almost dead, and Lex is just like, does it bother you that Batman likes Catwoman more than you? And he's and it just sets Joker off. You know, his comment about like, do you hate that he loves her more? And like, it was great.
I mean, even the cover is like, you can kind of see it, but it says like, the Joker's killing Lex, and then Shift is like, should we care? Like just kind of just like, what do we give a fuck?
Anyway, while Lex is going on, we find out, you know, Gorilla Grodd shows. Fucking Grodd is there.
All right, so let's get to the point, though. At the end of this issue, Joker kills all of Lex's Secret Service, and the torture begins. But the whole point is that you find out that the entire guerrilla invasion is a Joker plan to distract so he can capture Lex.
Stop, Joe. You have to say that with a straight face. You can't laugh while you mention the guerrilla invasion of New York.
Okay, hold on. So the Joker went to Gorilla City, apparently gave them all some disease that he has the cure for, and then forced them to go invade New York City as a distraction just so he could capture Lex and torture him. And the best part is, all he really wants is some like super villainy shit that he paid for from some other company that LexCorp absorbed.
That's it. That's why gorillas invaded New York. That's all. That's it right there.
The whole fight is pointless.
This is one speech bubble, by the way. Like the whole narrative setup we get is just one speech bubble of this is everything that's been going on.
Meanwhile, the Outsiders are fighting the gorillas for like 2 straight issues.
I did think it was hilarious though when it does come out, because Nightwing, I've always hated this shit. So there's so many giant talking gorillas in DC, and when there's an issue of Batgirl,
the next issue has Monsieur Malin and the Brain.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like gorilla after gorilla in all these issues.
But like, I hate it when like people like Nightwing and like Batgirl just manhandle giant gorillas. Like there's an issue with Batgirl where she punches either Monsieur Mahler or Grodd like through a brick wall.
Yeah,
like,
he literally shoves Grodd to the ground.
Yeah,
and like threatens him, and I'm like,
shit out of him.
A gorilla, a normal gorilla,
without Grodd's brain,
humans could rip you limb from limb without even trying.
Yeah.
I mean, he's literally He's like, "Why is Joker doing this?" And Grodd,
he's like intimidating. He's beating him with the stick. He's holding him down by like the scruff of his neck, and like because he doesn't have any clothes. I don't know what he's gripping.
He's holding him down, clothes,
and then he's beating him with a stick like it would do anything. And then he's like, "Tell me why you're here." And he's like, you got me, Nightwing." It's all the Joker's plan.
A gorilla could just bite half Nightwing's face off.
I know. I don't get it.
Gorillas are
saying like have at least have like Grace or Thunder be the one slapping him around. Like, don't make it the one guy.
Yeah.
One of the.
I think isn't Grace standing right next to him when he's doing it?
Yeah. It's crazy.
I don't know.
The other
somebody's standing right.
Back to an earlier point. Why does DC have so many fucking gorilla villains?
Why are there so many?
There's a whole
why are
city.
there multiple gorilla villains?
Well, there's a whole city.
I don't think Monsieur Malin isn't from Gorilla City. Isn't he?
No, he's not.
Normal
no, he's a different
brain?
thing. He's a different thing.
Yeah. We have multiple sentient gorillas.
You know what? A tiny continuity error that bothered me. It was like Roy was in issue 2. He's using the plane or something to like zero in on Grodd, and he's like, "Find the Pequod is finding Grodd or whatever," and then he's fighting him, and he's getting his ass handed to him, and then in the very next issue, like no time has passed, but like suddenly the team is kind of like linking up back together, like they've all done separate things, like to curtail the invasion of the gorillas, and then for whatever reason, Grodd isn't there anymore, and he's like, we're going to use the Pequod to find Grodd. I'm like, you already did that. Like a solid, there was like a whole couple of pages devoted to them trying to find Grodd. Roy finds him, goes and fights him. And then like, what?
Come on. Lost track of him. All right. No. Want to make a few comments. So Patrick alluded to this. Gorilla Army, breastplate and shoulder armor and helmets whole lower body bear.
Mhm.
Why protect your chest and shoulder and nothing else?
Well, then
I
also
Two
Grodd
to the
wasn't
chest, one to the head.
Grodd
Yeah,
wasn't
gotta be
wearing
careful.
any armor. He
And
was
Grodd
completely
naked. Grodd's
naked.
just in his, proud and strong gorilla, just naked.
Yeah, that is odd.
Another thing I wanted to make.
Maybe it's an intimidation
Roy-
factor. They just want big gorilla dicks swinging around, so like everyone will be like, "Oh shit!"
Maybe, but he's also
Look at
a
that big
weak
gorilla dick
that
energy.
humans. I know, but a human can slap him around. He's a weaker than average gorilla. So
I mean, clearly. I mean,
another
Nightwing's
thing-
no average human, Al.
All right, I know this was at the time a big part of Roy's gritty rebrand, but Roy with 2 guns shooting people is a little uncomfortable in today's day.
To me, it reminded me very much of Lara Croft from Tomb Raider.
It's a very Tomb Raider pose.
That's
But I don't know how I feel about a superhero with firearms.
I mean, there's a panel
America just
there's a panel
shooting.
when Roy and Dick are talking and they're fighting gorillas, and Nightwing is like kicking gorillas and stuff, and Roy is just literally like he's looking one way and then his hand is backwards and he's just blasting a gorilla in the chest, like just straight shooting him in the chest.
But I mean, these are probably non-lethal bullets, right? Like,
But I'd assume.
Maybe
I did enjoy how Nightwing threatened to let all the gorillas drown in the water, and no one else on the team said anything.
But it was a bluff. It was a bluff.
Yeah,
it was a
He
bluff.
Specifically later says it was a bluff. So
Yeah,
It was a bluff.
It was a bluff, but he's talking to Batman later, and he's like, "Yeah, I said this," and everyone picked up it was a bluff immediately. And it's like, how do you know that they knew that, or how did you know they just weren't? Cool
maybe
with you
they're
killing
okay. Yeah,
them?
maybe they're
they were
okay with
just-
drowning gorillas.
Nightwing.
Grace and
Nightwing.
Thunder's like,
They were fine with you murdering the gorillas.
Yeah.
they didn't know you were lying.
Another just tally point into Roy's.
They're like, shit, I'm
incompetence.
getting paid, I guess, if they're murdering a bunch of gorillas. I guess I'm,
Well, so
got a nice
another
paycheck.
tally. Yeah, another point for Roy's incompetence. As soon as he enters the fray, just shooting his like pew pew cowboy guns, Grodd just grabs him by the neck and is about to go. Like he's just immediately fails at doing the thing.
yeah.
Isn't he like, we gotta find Grodd? He's hiding, and Grodd just like right in front of him. He's like, I'm not hiding, you dumbass.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah, oh yeah, I
grabbed him by the
actually
neck.
love that though. I mean, as for a Grodd moment.
For a Grodd thing, yeah.
Also, we get introduced to Jade, who's also just a perfect, just horny person's dream of a woman. Just like skin tight, perfect body,
She's just a
Skin tight
superhero
suit.
costume, man.
superhero.
Well,
At least
she's
she
a
just has a
supermodel.
deep cut V with boob cups and a diamond over her belly button.
They
I don't know.
specifically
I just-
say
again,
they
this
specifically
She's wearing
Comic
say
head to
she's-
toe
they
superhero
spec-
tights.
They specifically say she's a supermodel and actress.
I guess it makes it
And-
fine.
No.
This comic
know.
is very it's very horny. Everyone's
I mean,
super
I don't-
hot. Everyone's
In terms
it's
of,
just-
I would take more like Grace wearing the low cut like pants
I'm
with
aware.
the underwear straps coming out of the pants and over her hips is a little
Look,
more
I'm,
racy than Jade wearing head to toe clothing, however skin tight.
I'm aware. Look, when I was 18 or whatever reading this, I was a big fan of Grace.
You were like, Grace.
Grace's
Damn.
costume. Grace. She can do.
Grace,
Did
did
she,
all-
ever get a, did she ever get a code name later?
No, I kind of like that about her. She just goes by Grace.
She's
you know?
just
She doesn't
Gracie.
fuck.
I like that too. She's awesome.
I
Yeah,
did,
but anyway,
where'd
going-
she go?
Going back
know?
to the intro, you know what? Where did Grace or Thunder Shift is
Thunder's
dead?
around here
Indigo's
and there.
dead. Is she?
Yeah.
I feel like most of these people like don't exist anymore. But I was
don't
gonna
think
say
they do.
when Jade is introduced, that was another fun Lex moment because the helicopter's crashing and everyone's freaking out, and Lex is just sitting there, just being like, "It's New York City. One of them will get us."
He's like,
And-
one of them's gonna get us. Don't
He's
worry
like-
about it.
yeah.
There's an emergency happening right now. There's like at least 10 superheroes nearby. Like,
And-
someone's gonna catch this helicopter.
And then he's like, "Oh, we're saved by green constructs. We have one of 4 people to thank." And he goes, "Oh, it's the pretty one."
Yeah.
I just thought Lex's dialogue was just really good. in these two.
Lex kills it in this. He's awesome.
All right, let's get to issue 3.
Another weird thing is that this takes place in New York. Like it's weird that it's not
It is New York,
Gotham or
yeah.
whatever. Like it's just straight up New
Or
York.
not Bloodhaven.
No, one note about this issue I wanted to make, even though I didn't understand why they had to do it this way, but I did kind of like Thunder and Grace teaming up to stop
To catch the plane. Yeah, that was awesome.
I don't know why Thunder needed Grace to be involved, because I don't know why she couldn't just be dense and catch it herself. But
I don't think she's
it was
not
a cool
super
moment.
strong. I think they were trying to stop the plane as much as if it just smashed into like a super dense object, it would still like explode and rip through buildings and stuff. I think the idea is that Grace is strong enough to like catch and hold the plane, but they would just carry her away. But combined together, she can catch it, and and Thunder can like ground her. So to stop it from like smashing through all the buildings, because as they mentioned.
But I liked this moment because even though so the team is girl heavy, like there's 4 girls to 3 guys in general, but I do like moments like this where it's just women on the team teaming up to do stuff, like with that, Arsenal and Nightwing are absent. It's just, it's just the girls, like, we're doing this.
Later on, when they split up in the Brother Blood issues to like go do stuff, like
there's more. I mean, there's more examples.
There's a bunch
I wanted to call this out as like an early example of, we do get lots of moments like this in the comic, which is nice because especially in 2003, DC Comics, you didn't get a lot of like girl heavy teams and like 2 super.
Well, so again, I think a lot of that, although they are like overly sexed up, obviously, but like a lot of that is Winick going like, let's stack this team with girls, so there's girl characters. I mean, like, some of that is decision making being done on the writer's part.
Yeah, in general, from a macro like point, I just really enjoyed Thunder and Grace's like relationship development, them specifically throughout, even just the first 6 issues. They have a few moments where they kind of have alone time and kind of get to know each other, and you get to know them through their little conversations where they're learning stuff about each other. It's kind of cute. I liked it.
Yeah, I like it too.
Yeah, so I just wanted to call that out as a cool moment.
They even have like to Patty's point, they even have like a conversation later when Grace says like nice things about Thunder, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know you gave a fuck."
Yeah,
that was like kind of like interesting. I thought you cared about no one ever. That's interesting.
No, but again, just wanted to call that out as like they are all babes and super hot, but also they're at least given cool moments like that where they actually do that heroes, and they're
they do that like. I mean, Grace specifically says they're doing it because if they don't, it's going to destroy like however many city blocks of buildings and kill a bunch of people. Yeah. Like, they are a black ops team, but they are still superheroes.
Well, honestly, the girls on the team are more heroes than Arsenal and Nightwing seem like they're more worried about other shit.
As ridiculous as the gorilla distraction storyline is, I sort of like it because it's so ridiculous, because it's like a Joker plan and it's insane, and it's just the Joker trying to get his shit. Like, I kind of from Lex, and I sort of like love that he went to this much trouble because he's the president now, and the only way he can get at him is if there's a giant distraction. And I sort of like love the stupidity of that. Sort of, I don't know. I know it's insane, but I just kind of like the overall like, let's give the team something to do, but also it's all fake. It's sort of fun to me, even though it's also insane.
Can I make a macro Joker point? And I say that rhetorically because I'm going to make it anyway, whether you all agree to let me do it or not.
But you can.
Okay. Joker's weird in that he's an iconic Batman villain, and especially in films, like we had Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, of course everyone's favorite Joker, Jared Leto. Like, he's such an iconic film character.
Yeah.
I've never read a comic where the Joker's written interestingly. Is it just me, or like I feel like he's never that engaging a character in comics, but like in the movies, he's like huge.
I've certainly read comics where he's engaging.
Like what? Yeah. I'm not kidding. I've never read a Batman comic with a Joker in it where I was like, oh, what a cool character this Joker is.
I feel like I just read something recently where he really creeped me out, but I can't remember what it was off the top of my head.
With the exception, of course, of The Dark Knight Returns, which is probably the greatest comic ever written by Frank Miller, one of our greatest.
He's great in that.
No, he's not.
The Joker's great in that.
Oh, Joker terrified me in Catwoman. That was a terrifying version of him to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He was like a
really recently
player.
the Batman Catwoman crossover comic, or that they're doing. that Tom King wrote. Really, really good Joker stuff in that.
I agree with you in this, though. I did have in my notes that I loved Lex's dialogue, but I don't know if it was the letterer or how they were trying to make like the words spell. Like I couldn't understand what he was saying half the time. Like he makes up words to I guess sound crazy, but it doesn't flow very well with what he's saying at all. It's like bibbidi bop bop. I want my weapons. Boppity boop boop. It's like what?
I mean,
good,
he calls Lex like a different nickname every time they're having it. Like every word bubble is like he calls him lamb chop. He calls him all kinds of shit. And you're just like, what are you saying? I'm getting lost.
He calls him Uncle Fester, a little Addams Family.
He does, yeah.
Reference. Yeah.
Again, many as well as many other things. All right, so they save Lex.
Joe, here's the panel of Roy just nonchalantly
just nonchalantly just blasting somebody in the chest.
Oh my god!
But also his other gun in the foreground, also shooting a gorilla. He's doing two at once.
It's not okay. It's not.
He's also not looking at either of the shots. He's like,
I know podcasts are an audio medium, but people listening at home look at this.
Well, listen,
panel.
I mean, you can also watch this on YouTube.
It is unreal. He's just point blank murdering a gorilla while having a conversation. It's just unreal.
We've spent way too much time on this. Listen, they save Lex. God. He says, "Who are you?" Nightwing says, "Good question." And then he goes and has a conversation with Batman, who isn't secretly funding the team.
Who's not yet.
And they review the team together.
Batman is funding the team. He's just not giving them their info.
Right. And then so the point is they find their purpose, and like Nightwing says, like, "Oh, we're hunters, not firemen." And again, I still really like that concept.
I do as well. I just don't think I
like the conversation with
that team. Like I don't remember it being. I guess that's what they were, though. I don't know why I forgot.
That's what they do.
Key detail
after this.
Yes, they go after a bunch of leads, and that was also like this. This fucking like in these 6 issues, they fought Gorilla Grodd with Gorilla City, which I think that should just be the villain. If you're doing a gorilla story, like that just needs to be like what you're doing.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I like that, because it's like a huge villain, and they just threw him in the garbage.
It was like
almost literally because they're shoving the gorillas into the water and shooting them dead. Like it's just sweeping them away, like literally sweeping them away.
Roy's obviously got like fake guns that shoot energy or something that's not he's not killing people left and right.
We haven't talked about Lex's gut.
Oh, I love that.
Dude's got a belly. When did he get
We're moving on. We're on Brother Blood. Okay, issue 4.
No, I just wanted to say, like, you got Grodd, you have Lex, you have Joker, and then you have all these random villains at the beginning of issue 4, and then fake Batman's like, think of the connections, and somehow he goes from like Plasmus and Warp and some other rando character, and he's like, Brother Blood, and I'm like,
oh, it's obviously this guy that's just sitting in a monastery doing nothing. What?
I'm like, what is happening? These first 4 issues, I'm like, how did we get to Brother Blood? Like, where are we?
What's important to know is that we're on issue 4.
Go through another gorilla before we get to Brother Blood.
Yeah,
Monsieur
Mala. Monsieur Mala and the Brain are there. Like, what is happening? What is happening? And then later on, these issues, fucking like the Fearsome 5 are around. Like they interact with.
That's another reason why I get a lot of Young Justice vibes from this, because a lot of the villains that are kind of like lower tier villains that they pull from for this book are very heavily prevalent in the Young Justice cartoon, and I'm like,
oh yeah, for sure.
That's interesting. So, I wonder if that's like. Maybe the person that made Young Justice is like a really big fan of this book or something, because the way Young Justice works with, they're like, let's click and turn on our our Black Ops costumes versus like regular, like the whole vibe of Young Justice kind of fits with this Outsiders-esque like story arc.
Mobius Couchers, we decided retroactively to split this episode in 2 because we're going to take a summer break and we have a thin layer of content we need to spread out over several months. So this has been part 1.
Part 1 of The Outsiders.
Part 1 of The Outsiders.
So if the conversation cut off abruptly, we apologize.
Well, I don't know if apologize isn't the right word. We don't owe these people anything.
See you next episode. See you part 2. See you at part 2.
Good journey.
Good journey.